at the park. And that's not all. We'll talk with the champion, the 5-time champion, Bob Polverari. The trophies are on the table, and that's an indication of just one thing. It is banquet time once again here in the heart of New England. A time to pay tribute to the champions of Winston Racing Series competition. Hello, I'm Ben Dodge, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Race Week. Well, as you can see, we've put away our summer clothes, and now we've got the ties and suits on because it's banquet time. And we're going to pay tribute to the champions in the NASCAR Winston Racing Series from the Riverside Park Speedway. In order to do that, we must go back and relive the excitement that built the championship year. Because in this edition of Race Week, we'll be taking a look at the modifieds, the pro stocks, and the late models. We'll be introducing ourselves to the champions. And Riverside's got some great champions for 1990. There's the 5-time NASCAR Winston Modified Tour champion, Bob Polverari, and Jerry Marquis and all the excitement that surrounded him as he took the pro stock title. We'll also take a look at Tom Carey in the late model division. But right now, it's time to go and take a look at the NASCAR modified racing at the most successful quarter mile of them all, the Riverside Park Speedway, building to the 5-time champion's quest. When 1990 rolled around at Riverside Park, it would be the 3rd time in 5 years that the racetrack had been repaved. But the hot setup for 1990 proved right from the opening night event that the pavement was fast and furious. As Tommy Bowles immediately jumped out into an early lead, there were a lot of competitors trying to get dialed in, like Dan Giovanelli, and Kenny Bouchard was back with car number 0. Brian Schofield was looking to run low when Reggie Ruggiero would cut a tire with car number 44. For Ruggiero, it wouldn't be a good night, but for Tommy Bowles, on night number 1, it would be victory with car number 76. Jerry Marquis would finish in 2nd over Reggie Ruggiero. Night number 2 put the defending champion and Charlie Pastriak in the front row. And for a while, it looked like the champion had things well under control. Then Kenny Bouchard and John Zavisa got locked together. But back at the front of the field, the news story was Jerry Marquis. Marquis had cut a tire, and he'd have to go to the pits, then work his way back to the front of the field. And work he did. D'Alessandro didn't know where he came from. But Marquis was the star of this show, as he would take over number 1. But for Bruce D'Alessandro, there'd be no luck at all on night number 2, as Rick Summers would have the same type of hard luck. But it was Jerry Marquis over George Godinez. Night number 3, the Reg was on a roll, but Dan Avery wasn't letting Ruggiero get far out of his side. It was Ruggiero and Avery for a while. Then Bruce D'Alessandro, again with no luck, would go spinning with car number 90. This would be just the start of the tough season for D'Alessandro for 1990. Polverari would look strong. Then on this night, an unbelievable high-flying act by Ricky Summers, making contact with Mike McLaughlin. Let's take a look at it once again as Summers' car literally floats through the air and comes down hard. A tough night for car number 9. But the story was not as tough for some competitors, but for the Reg, it would be another tough night with car number 44. He would go to the back of the pack, but Jerry Marquis and Stan Greger were making it a battle of the red at the front of the field, and the champion, Bob Polverari, was on a roll, too. Night number 4 in the competition saw Charlie Pastriak trying to get hitched up when Ed Kennedy would go around at the front of the field. This would jam them all up, literally a 10-car situation in turn number 1. But when they were back to green, it was Stan Greger in command. Tommy Bowles, Polverari, and Dan Avery weren't letting him get far out of his side, and it would be a race to the checker with Greger securing the victory over Tom Bowles. Ed Kennedy looked like a shoo-in for night number 5 when Ricky Summers had worked the inside lane well and literally slingshot out into the lead. Dan Avery was again a factor as he thread the needle to get to the front when Joe Rezatek and Kenny Bouchard would lock horns. No real problem except for Bouchard, up in smoke and out of the event for car number 0. But back to the front of the field, it was Rick Summers in victory lane for the first time. The Reg was looking for his first victory of 1990, and night number 6 would be a great start for Reggie Ruggiero. He would secure it in the 6th event of the season. 7 events into the record books, and Bob Polverari and Mighty Mike Stefanik were locking horns right from the start. It was Tom Bowles who was also a big factor here, but Polverari took the low road to hold on for a while as Mike Stefanik would try to make a new lane down the back straightaway. Bowles would be involved in the skirmish, but Bob Polverari would visit victory lane for the first time. It was Bruce D'Alessandro trying to get one up on the board in event number 8. But not far behind was Stan Greger dialed in the bottom groove. It wouldn't take him long to take over the lead and start to pull away. And Jerry Marquis was equally as impressive. With Polverari not far out of sight, the Reg would become a factor as he'd work his way to the front of the field. It was Reggie Ruggiero now in command. The Sherwood Motorsports car was dialed into perfection, and car number 44 would visit victory lane. The Reg was looking to make it 2 in a row on the 9th night of competition, and he would work the outside lane well to secure his 2nd victory in a row at Riverside. Night number 10 would start out like any other Saturday night program at Riverside, but this would become the most horrifying event of them all at Riverside Park. It was down the back straightaway when they were challenging among the top 5 cars, bidding among the top positions when 2 cars would lock horns. 5 cars would be locked together down the front straightaway on the 5th lap. Then suddenly a fuel cell would rupture. Flames would entirely engulf the DeHunt car, the Wade Pro car, and Brad Highteller's number 54. From the bravery of the drivers, some drivers were rescued from the competition. Wade Pro would suffer severe burns in the situation. The event would be resumed on the next Saturday night. 5 laps into the record books, initially when it would restart, havoc would strike once again. But once things got back together, more problems would develop, this time for Jerry Marquis. But it was Richie Gallup who'd become the star of the show as he would hold on to secure the impressive victory. Round number 2 in the same night of the competition was also 50 laps. It was Ricky Summers who looked like a shoo-in for a while, but Tom Bowles would secure the impressive victory. 12th night of competition saw Stan Greger at the front of the field, and John Zavisa giving him a run for his money. But Greger was the man in the limelight once again as Zavisa would finish 2nd. Another round of competition, the 13th event of the season. And right from the start, it was unlucky for some, as 8 cars would literally tangle down the front straightaway. For Bruce D'Alessandro, his bad luck would continue. But for Bob Polverari and Richie Gallup, it would be a race to the wire, as Polverari would literally be the driving force at the front of the field. Polverari would secure win number 2. George Udinas was looking for his first victory ever in night number 14. And for a while, it looked like he was a guaranteed winner in the competition. And down the back straightaway, Ed Kennedy would be involved in a mix-up. Mike Stefanik and Chris Kopech literally pig-piled on top of them. Late in the event, it was Jerry Marquis who took over the lead from Udinas. Then Ruggiero snuck to the front of the class and dominated the racing action there. It was Reggie Ruggiero into the winner's circle for win number 3. Off the turn, the story was again the Battle of the Red on night number 15. It was Jerry Marquis to the inside, with Greger to the outside. Late in the event, when Eddie DeHunt, the 3rd-place car, would get up on the wheels and over on his roof and take the long, safe slide down the back straightaway. It was the Reg over Bob Polverari for win number 4. Stan Greger was looking like he could secure it in night number 16. But Jerry Marquis was again a factor, but Polverari was on a roll. He'd muscle up enough steam when contact was made, and Polverari would stop just in the nick of time before the light pole. For Polverari, the points on the title was on his mind. But for Greger, it was nothing more than another victory. On night number 17, Bob Polverari wanted not only the win, but he wanted the title. Polverari would work to the front of the field, but Tom Bowles was running good when Gallup would slingshot by as Polverari would drop off the pace as Gallup was into the winner's circle once again. It was Tommy Bowles who was looking strong in the 18th event of the season. Chris Kopech was not far behind, but Bowles was the star of this show, securing his 2nd win of 1990. Dan Avery was long overdue for a victory, and Brad Hightower was back, but Bob Polverari and Jerry Marquis wasn't going to let it happen with ease. The 5 cars would battle at the front of the field. When muscling his way to the front of the pack was car number 76. Polverari would be a factor and work his way to the inside. Final circuit of competition would pretty much tell the story. Tom Bowles on the outside as Polverari would hold on for 2nd. For Bob Polverari, it was his 5th title at Riverside, the 1990 NASCAR Winston Racing Series Modified Champion. For Bob Polverari, it'd be a successful 1990 season. His 5th title with 3 wins, 7 top 5s, and 15 top 10s. Jerry Marquis had again, for the fourth season in a row, finished in the runner-up spot. Stan Greger was third, Dan Avery was fourth, and Tom Bowes won the first and last event of the season to finish fifth. Charlie Pastriak impressively finished among the top six. Congratulations to the five-star champion, Bob Polverari. Well, what a task it is to become a five-time champion. No one has ever done it in the 45-year history of Riverside Park Speedway. Later on, we'll be talking with Bob Polverari and what it's like to be the only five-time champion at Riverside Park. Well, next we'll be taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the Pro Stock champion, the late models, and a whole lot more right after this. Welcome back to Race Week. Well, now it's time to take a look at Division number 2 at Riverside Park Speedway. They call it a Pro Stock division. It originated back at Riverside in 1982. Full-bodied racing at its best, very similar to the ASA and Southern-style late models in competition there. But at Riverside Park, this division has proved to be highly competitive. And among the shining stars in the competition is the 1990 champion, and that's Jerry Marquis. We'll take a look at his quest from event number 1 right to the final night of competition in Riverside's Pro Stock division. On night number 1, it was Dave Caruso who looked impressive right from the start. But Bob Sokolowski and Blaine Bells weren't letting him get too far out of his sight. But Caruso would show he had enough steam to be the driving force to dominate the racing action up front. The new pavement of the new surface didn't stop Mark Pronyne, the defending champion, from working his way to the front. But Caruso was the man that would win night number 1. On the second night of the season, Jerry Marquis looked like a shoo-in, working his way to the inside of Blaine Bell. Pronyne was again a factor with car number 52. But it was Jerry Marquis who found some magic at the new Riverside Park Speedway and would hold on to secure his first victory in the pros of 1990. The third night of competition saw Bobby G and Dan Avery duking it out in row number 1. Caruso and Mark Pronyne were involved when it was Avery and Bobby G who locked horns. Pronyne would go to the infield, and so would Tom Rosati. Jerry Marquis and Teddy Hebert would take the long, dejected walk back to the pit area. The Marquis car was damaged both front and rear. He was out of the competition. Tom Fern, the rookie, would have a tough night, losing the nose of his car, but would come on exceptionally strong during the later events of 1990. Mark Pronyne would have his worst night early in the season, but for Roger Godin, it was his first win of 1990. Jerry Marquis would come on strong during the next week after that accident, and he would secure another victory in the Pro Stocks at Riverside. Teamwork was the story on night number 5, as Teddy Hebert would literally remove some debris from the back end of Tom Rosati. Rosati would have to do it from the back of the pack, and do it he would to secure his first victory of 1990. It was Bobby G in night number 6 who come to the front of the class and take down the win with ease with car number 57. After Bobby G's win, the next week he'd literally bull his way to the front of the field as Bob Sokolowski would slam the wall, and Dan Avery, with some help from Bobby G, would go around with car number 10A. But it was still Jerry Marquis dominating the racing action once again. The next week it was Teddy Hebert who was literally locking the horns with Jerry Marquis for position number 1. Blaine Bells would be involved, so would Eddie Carroll, as everyone would pretty much scramble for position here. But it was Mark Pronyne into the winner's circle once again. Dan Avery was looking for a victory when he would get locked up with Johnson with car number 93. It was Ted Hebert and Tom Rosati who would also find their way into contention, but off the turn, it was Mark Pronyne contending with Dan Avery to work their way to the front as Jerry Marquis was the driving force out into the lead. It was Jerry Marquis back into the winner's circle once again. By midway in the season, Jerry Marquis was looking very strong during the 12th event of competition. It was Eddie Carroll out into the lead when Tom Rosati and Dan Avery would do a pirouette and go spinning. Eddie Carroll's lead had suddenly vanished as Jerry Marquis was now again the man that dominated the racing action with car number 73. On the next night, Dave Caruso was looking good for the 13th event of the season. Caruso would pressure Wayne Carroll to take over the number 1 spot. But Carroll would try to fight back among the top 5 cars as Tom Fern would come on strong with car number 92. But it was Dave Caruso back in victory lane. Ed Carroll, the owner and operator of Riverside Park, would be the man that would try to dominate the racing action on the 14th night. Tommy Fern would give him a run for the money, but Ed Carroll would win by inches at the line. For the man who owned the real estate more, it was a big day at Riverside Park Speedway. Blaine Bells and Dave Caruso were duking it out on the 15th event of the season, and Caruso was the man who would hold on to position number 1 for a while. It was Bells and Tommy Fern still battling among the top 5 cars as they were contending and working their way to the front of the field. But Dave Caruso was the man who would set in victory lane for the 3rd time. On the next week, an outsider would come in and take all the glory away from the regulars. It was Tony Papali who wasted no time at all to take over position number 1. Mike Duquette with a strong running Chrysler would contend, but Tony Papali was the man that would visit victory lane. The following week, Eddie Carroll and Wayne Carroll. No relations here, and it showed on the racetrack as Eddie Carroll would be the man who would try to hold on to position number 1. Jerry Marquis would become a factor, but Eddie Carroll was the guy who held on to the lead. Tommy Fern and Bobby G would duke it out lap after lap, but still the race would be told at the checker. And it was Ed Carroll to dominate the racing action there. With Jerry Marquis' consistent finishes, he had built up a commanding point lead 3/4 of the way through 1990. The battle of the rookie against the defending champion was told on the next night as Tom Fern would motor on by. But at the checker, it was Jerry Marquis who snuck back to position number 1. He had worked his way to the inside to dominate the racing action to the wire. On the final night of competition, Mark Farino was looking to close out the 1990 season. You know, he didn't have the title, but he was looking to visit victory lane. Blaine Bells and Caruso were giving him a real run for the money when Tony Papali would lock horns as Bill Lordson and Eddie Carroll would be involved. But it was Mark Farino who set in the victory lane. Jerry Marquis would finish 2nd, and that would give him the title for the 1990 season. Congratulations to Jerry Marquis and the crew of PT-73. It was Marquis with 470 points. Mark Farino would finish in 2nd over Blaine Bells, Bobby G, and the rookie, Tommy Fern. Congratulations to Jerry Marquis on his first ever championship at Riverside.
Now, I'd like to thank even a lot of the competitors here at Riverside. They help out a lot of people, and anybody that gets broke, you know, they're in their pits, they're patching up cars, making them get back on the track. Without all these people behind the scenes, we wouldn't be up here and doing what we're doing. And I'd like to thank everybody again. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Jerry Marquis. Jerry Marquis was impressive in the Pro Stock division to take down the title. In the Modified division, where he also competes, he was runner-up for the 2nd consecutive season in a row. For 1991, he wants the number 1 spot in the Modifieds, and he hopes to be the only champion ever to secure it in 2 different divisions. Well, now it's time to move on to the late models. Full-bodied racing at its best once again, as Tom Carey became the man that stole all the thunder for Saturday night competition in the late models at Riverside. Division number 3 at Riverside Park Speedway was the late model division. And Tom Carey Jr. looked strong during the opening night of competition with car number 5. John Johnson would try to give him a run for the money, and Larry Vassar would run strong. But it was Tom Carey right from event number 1 who set in the winner's circle. Carey borrowed an automobile to run up front during the 2nd night. Todd Anderson would give him a real run for it, and a major mix-up down the back straightaway took out a lot of the front runners like Gray and Charette. But it was Tom Carey with the rented automobile to win event number 2. 3rd night of the season, G. Perry looked like a shoe-in. Jackson was on the outside with car number 8, and Fred LaForge, Carey, and Gray were also considered factors in this event. But it was Perry who'd run strong and hold on and dominate the racing action to the checker. The 3rd event of the season saw Chris Benson Wood battle with Tom Carey at the front of the field. Carey had worked the inside lane well, and he would take over the number 1 spot. But Woods would try to fight back, but fighting back wouldn't be good enough as Carey was back in the winner's circle. Roger Charette would put the Buick Grand National to the front of the field on the 5th night of the season to take down his first victory of 1990. It was then Perry and Zolonka who were battling in event number 6. Zolonka running the outside with Perry down low as Gary Pronyne would become a factor, but it was G. Perry who dominated the racing action to the checker. Chris Benson Woods and Tom Carey would duke it out in the 8th event of the season. The two would work side by side, lap after lap, trying to hunt down Anderson. But time was starting to run out. Late in the event, Carey had suddenly reeled in on Anderson. Final circuit would tell the story. Carey would dive to the bottom of Anderson. They come off the turn, and they cross the line with Carey ahead by inches. But the NASCAR officials would give Anderson the win. It was Roger Charette in for win number 2 during the next night of competition. Fred LaForge would be a factor on the 11th night as he would literally dominate as G. Perry would try to make him work for it in the outside lane. Tom Carey was again running right up front, but Fred LaForge would not fold to the pressures as he would take down the victory. More great racing action was in store for the dynamic duo of Todd Anderson as Carey would drop off the pace in this event with car number 5. It was Gary Pronyne who surprised a lot of folks, battling with Anderson as Pronyne would take it at the checker. Fred LaForge was back in winning style on the 13th night as he would take down the victory. 14 events into the record books. It was Barnes on the outside, as car number 22 would be the driving force up front for Scott Foster. It was Mike Quintiliani in the 15th night of the season, the rookie who would dominate the racing action and take down his first late model win. Fred LaForge was back and looking stronger than ever during the 16th night as he would hold on for the victory. 17 events in, LaForge was looking for yet another win. Bob Skinger was working the inside lane as they were battling among this 50-lap special event. The skies would open up, the rains would come. The event would end under the red checker as Bob Skinger would take down the victory. It was Chris Benson Woods to win the Race of Champions qualifier on the 18th night of the season. And Tom Carey was back to win the final race in the championship for 1990.
Well, now you've met all 3 division champions at Riverside Park. Bob Polverari along with Jerry Marquis and Tom Carey. But now it's time to get a little more personal. We'll be taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be talking with the 5-time champion from Riverside Park Speedway, Bob Polverari. All of that and more right after this.
Attention Monster Maniacs, the United States Hot Rod Association blasts into your living room with their new home video, Monsters of Rock and Roar. It's electrifying mega motor action like you've never seen before. See mud bog track racing, monster truck battle, Bigfoot versus Barefoot, funny car tug-of-wars, and more. Meet Borean, the jet dragster that turns into a 2-story tall flame-throwing robot. Don't be fooled by imitations. Monsters of Rock and Roar is not available in stores. Hurry, order now.
Call now, 1-800-323-9300.
NESN serves up the semifinals of the Virginia Slims of New England Saturday, November the 10th, live at 1 o'clock, and tape delay coverage at 10, with the finals live Sunday afternoon at 1.
Welcome back to Race Week. Well, now we've taken a look at the 1990 season and the quest for the modified title. But now it's time to meet the champion of Riverside Park Speedway. He by far is one of the most popular drivers ever to bless the quarter mile. In addition to that, he is the only 5-time champion of the NASCAR modified division. Bob, congratulations again on your championship quest. 5 championships at Riverside. Nobody has ever done that. Was that a goal from you right from the start?
Not really. We just try to run hard every week, and fortunately, we've had some good runs, and this year was another one of them. And good runs become championships at the end of the year, and maybe we'll get 6.
Let's talk about the importance of being a champion. I mean, you've done it 5 times. Is title number 5 any different than title number 1?
I wouldn't say the championship itself was any different, but I wanted this one pretty bad earlier in the year, and talked to my wife about it and said I'm going to put a little extra effort into it and not treat it quite so much as a hobby, maybe more as a business. And I spent a little more time in the car this year, and I think that's what helped us get it. We all got devoted to the car a little more than we had been the last few years, and that's what gets you a championship usually.
When you got involved in racing back in the beginning, did you think it would lead to where it has led today?
Not really. I just used to go out there and run and be lucky to stay in the field with the rest of the guys in the same lap, and never win a race, and never mind win the championship. And no, we didn't expect it to ever get to be this big.
It's kind of interesting to see how the racing has changed over the years. From the time that you became the 1st champion to the 5th champion, the cars have changed drastically, but the sport has changed. What are some of the big changes that you feel about modified racing?
Well, probably biggest thing is it's so much more professional. I mean, back a few years ago, we were just talking about it the other day. A few years ago, you know, you go out there and be real crude and crass, but now you try and be professional. You really try and do what's right for the sponsors and for the owners and for the fans too. And I see that to be the biggest change is that we're kind of high tech now, or we try to be anyways.
Let's talk a little bit about the team for the 1990 season. Your team seems to work so well, Bob. Everybody seems to click kind of magically. They have fun at racing, and that's something you don't see very often during these days.
True. We've had a lot of fun this year. We've never had an argument, and we seem to get along pretty good. We're kind of, I don't think we're really that serious about it. We just take it easy, and if somebody's got to take a night off, they just take it. Nobody gets mad at it. And I think it makes a good, it helps make the team what it was, you know, and it means a lot to finishing well.
Let's talk a little bit about the 1990 season. Was there a point in the season when you said, I think I've got it. I think it's right in my grasp? Did that come on the final night, midway? Or really didn't it happen at all until the final checkered flag came out?
I don't like it to bother me too much, or I don't let it bother me too much through the season, but I thought we had a good shot at probably having a free night the last night with about 3 or 4 to go, but then, you know, things happened, and we got in a couple of mishaps, and that knocked the points a little closer. It was good for the fans and everything, but it took a lot out on the crew and myself, but even that last night when Jerry got in front of me, and I knew I had to stay within 3 or 4 spots behind him. I didn't try to baby the car, but he's just so aggressive that he just came on so strong, and all of a sudden he was there, he was in front of me, and now he's the 3 or 4 cars out in the front, and I knew I was in trouble, and you know, a few laps later, they just started going backwards with their softer compound, so I felt real good when I got by them naturally.
Let's talk about 1991. Any plans as yet, or are we still just kind of contemplating?
We've got no plans at all. In fact, Billy's been gone for a while, and I was gone a little bit, and like I told Billy, we're going to get together a little closer to Christmas time and really talk it over and decide what he wants to do and kind of what I want to do, too.
Well, there's no question about it, Bob. You're a great 5-time champion.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, that's going to kind of wrap things up for another edition of Race Week. We hope you've enjoyed a look at the championship crest of Bob Polverari and a look at the champion from Riverside Park. There's no question about it, 1991, if it lives up to the reputation of 1990, it'll be a great season of competition when the race program opens up on March 23rd. On the next edition of Race Week, we'll be taking a look at Tony Hirschman, the gentleman who won the Martinsville-Winston Classic portion of the program for the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour. In addition to that, we'll bring you great racing action and some more banquets and a look behind the scenes in up-and-coming editions of Race Week. Until then, we say take care, and we'll see you again next time for the best in motorsports coverage, only right here with us on Race Week. Take care. Bye-bye now.